Hello friends, welcome to Elcam IAS. This is Dr. Rajesh Kumar Mohan, continuing the Indian Express Demystified series. We are going to discuss today's Indian Express newspaper dated 29th of May. So let's start today's discussion. Before starting our discussion, I would like to share something about me. I am Dr. Rajesh. I have done my MBBS from Government Medical College. I have worked as Assistant Medical Officer in Indian Ordnance Factory Health Services. In civil services, this is my fifth attempt, and I have cleared mains for two times, 2019 and 20, and appearing for 2020 interview. So let's start with today's newspaper. The first article on the first page itself is about Indian External Affairs Minister who is on a US visit. He met with the Secretary of State Blinken, so and other top officials. So the primary reason for this visit is cooperation in vaccination. Why there is a need for cooperation in vaccination? Because the reality is that the COVID pandemic is a global problem and it requires a global solution. Right now, what we are witnessing is that India is having a deficit supply of various COVID vaccines. However, US has huge surplus. In fact, it has promised to supply something around 80 million doses of COVID vaccines to India, out of which uh, 60 million are of AstraZeneca and 20 million are of other vaccines like Moderna, Pfizer, BioNTech, and Johnson and Johnson. The 60 million doses of AstraZeneca vaccine, which is known by the name of Covishield in India, it would not be used in USA. So in India, Covishield is in use. Therefore, there is a high chance that in one go we would be able to get 60 million doses. At the same time, other companies are also promising to deliver various amounts of vaccines amounting to total of 20 million. So, External Affairs Minister has focused on ensuring that there is a proper cooperation between India and US in this regard. At the same time, the discussions were also held with regard to Indo-Pacific region, especially Indo-Pacific, especially the idea of Quad grouping. Second is other South Asian and UN Security Council related issues were also discussed. The local issues in the South Asia were also discussed, which include the Myanmar issue, where right now we are having a military coup is there. The Afghanistan issue, where we are seeing that Joe Biden administration has affirmed that they would go for a troop withdrawal from Afghanistan. So all these issues were discussed between India and US at this visit. So with this, let's move on to the next one. This is an editorial about the Seal the Deal. So it discusses an issue with regard to the vaccine supply. So Pfizer has a vaccine which it developed with, along with BioNTech. So this vaccine, mRNA vaccine, has been developed by the two countries. So what is this history behind it? So initially the company applied for emergency use authorization to Indian drug regulator. However, the Indian drug regulator said that the company has to first show data regarding trials on the local population of India. So considering this aspect, the Pfizer took back its application. Later on, 2 months later, the government of India came up with a new vaccine policy, which allowed that those vaccines who have been cleared in various jurisdictions, such as USA, UK, Japan, would be allowed to be imported into India, and there would be no need of bridging trials. These trials are called bridging trials, where the trial is conducted in the home country on the local population in order to ensure that the vaccine is effective against their population also. So in order to increase the supply, the government of India changed the policy and allowed that there is no need for bridging trials if a vaccine has been approved by regulators of USA, UK, and Japan. So now negotiations are going on between the government of India, state governments, and Pfizer. Now, Pfizer right now is demanding something called indemnity provision. Indemnity clause. So what is indemnity clause? That in case of there, if there are some adverse events following immunization, then the company would not be held legally responsible for that particular event. So the editorial is saying that we have to seal this deal because there is a huge shortage of vaccine in the country. And in order to prevent the third wave from happening, we have to ramp up the vaccination drive. And new vaccines are very important in this regard. In fact, we have had contact with Sputnik 5 in this regard also. So the Sputnik 5 supplies are also entering in India. So right now, government of India has to find a fine balance between ensuring that these companies provide the vaccines to Indians, at the same time ensuring that the dignity of life of the people and respect for them is also taken care. So the balancing needs to be done in this regard. Next, opinion. On the opinion page, we have an article by Sham Sharan, who is a diplomat, is a former diplomat, and right now working at Observers Research Foundation. So we can directly quote Sham Sharan, and he's a well-respected author in this regard. So what is the article talking about? It is talking about the political uncertainty that is prevailing in Nepal. So what are the recent developments in this regard? So what happened is Prime Minister KP Oli, he lost the confidence motion, vote of confidence in the parliament, and it asked the president to dissolve the parliament in order to have fresh elections. So this is an uncertainty. At the same time, various political parties, 5 political parties, have approached Supreme Court saying that dissolution of parliament at this stage is not right. So this is a phase of uncertainty in Nepal. So what should be India's response in this uncertainty? According to the author, there is a need for engagement, but engagement does not mean engagement. And it should not mean intervention. Right now, what we are witnessing is that in Nepalese politics, the Indian hand is often blamed for all the activities. In fact, it is recently being said that KP Oli is close to India. At the same time, KP Oli has also issued a presidential ordinance where the long demands of Madhesi peoples have also been met. So what were the demands of these Madhesi people? So Madhesi people are living at the India-Nepal border in the Tarai region. So there is a constitutional provision which debars citizenship to the children born to a Nepali woman and an Indian man. So this is blatantly discrimination against the Madhesi people. So these people, they live in the plains. Nepalese politics is right now dominated by the people in the hill areas. So presidential ordinance has been passed in order to settle this issue. So KP Oli is right now having the support of Madhesi people. So and at the same time, there are discussions among the political elites in Nepal that KP Oli is very close to in India. At the same time, because various statement by RSS and BJP leaders point to this thing. At the same time, there are concerns that the monarchy may have a comeback. Why? Because the ruler of Nepal, Nepali king, recently visited the Kumbh Mela, and he was accorded a very nice welcome by Indian state. So these have created various conspiracy theories where people are in Nepal are saying that India is trying to have a comeback of the monarchy in Nepal. So at this juncture, according to Sham Sharan, it is would be very pertinent for India to take lessons from the past. From the past, we can first of all remember that if you compare between monarchy and democracy, democracy is has always acted in favor of India, and monarchy, while promoting its narrow nationalism, at points has been seen to be contrary to the interests of India. So, any such planning or any such encouragement by Indian government would be counterproductive, because in the long term, democracy would be in the interest of the people. At the same time, we should be mindful of the fact that Nepali citizens have got this democracy after a long interval, and there are various struggles associated with democracy. Second aspect that we need to learn is that we have to go for an engagement. If we do not engage into the Nepali situation without intervention, then it would provide a space for other powers to enter. For example, China can enter in the negotiation area and can have a government which is anti-India and pro-China. So engagement is a must, but that engagement should not be seen as intervention. Interventionist image would only create more damage to India's prospects in the country. Third emphasis that the author is saying that we have to have engagement with Nepal. Along with that, we have to ensure that the people of in the Tarai region, they become a votary of India's interest, and their interests should also be kept into mind while we negotiate with Nepal. Why is it so? Because their interests have been neglected by the political elite of Nepal. So it would be very bad on India's part that it neglects the interest of Meitei people while engaging with Nepal. So the final thing that we can draw from this article is that India should engage with Nepal, because there is a political uncertainty going on in our neighborhood. A politically unstable Nepal would not be in the best of interest in India's, and in this regard, we have to follow a policy of engagement which should not be seen as an interventionist approach. With this, let's move on to the next article. This is by Apurvanand. He is saying that recently the UGC has proposed something called blended teaching, where 30% of the graduation, the college teaching would be online, and slowly it will be increased to 70%. The aim is to increase the online content and ensure that the students have enough autonomy. But so much blended teaching can have adverse effects also, because this will create something called virtual campuses, where online content creation would be there, and it would be supplied online to the students. There would be no face-to-face interaction between teacher and the student. At the same time, university should not be seen just as a place where people read the books, read the syllabus, and write it in the exam. Rather, involves a lot of other things. First of all, there is peer-to-peer interaction. Second is that university provide a very socially inclusive space, and people get various avenues for leadership and quality development. The university ensure that the socially vulnerable sections are also able to express themselves on the campus area. So the university campus should not only be seen as a something where some books are to be taught, rather there is a wider meaning to it, and a virtual campus would have a real loss for the complete development of the students that are reading in these campuses. Next is this explained series. So recently what we are witnessing are that the cost of the edible oils is increasing. So in fact, there are 6 edible oils. They have their price have risen sharply. Groundnut oil, Then we have mustard oil, excuse me, mustard oil, vanaspati, soya oil, sunflower oil, palm oil. So all the prices of all these edible oils is increasing. So in this article, there is a discussion about what is how much is India consuming, what is the pattern of consumption of edible oil, reasons behind recent rise in the edible oils, what can be done. So right now we are experiencing a change in the eating pattern in India. So first of all, the consumption of with rise in disposable income, the consumption of edible oils is increasing. Second is that in urban areas, while in rural areas we have mostly mustard oil. In urban areas, we are witnessing a um, rise in the consumption of refined sunflower and soybean oil. So these are the various changes that are happening in consumption pattern. Now, what is the current composition of the supply of the oil? So we have a demand. So we produce uh, these edible oils from primary sources and secondary sources. What are the primary sources? Primary sources are oil seeds. So various oil seeds like groundnuts, like mustard. Secondary sources include coconut, from coconut also, oil palm. We have rice bran oil, cotton seed oil. So all this produce something around 11 million tons. However, our demand is 24 million ton. So rest of it is met through the imports. So imports constitutes 56% of our demand, of our supply of the oils. What are the major items of import and what are the countries from which we import? So first of all, we have palm oils. So that is like 7 million ton we import on a yearly basis. Soya bean we import 3.5 million. Third is that we import sunflower oil or the amount of 2.5 million tons. What is the major source of imports? For the soya bean, we import from Brazil and Argentina. Palm oil mostly from Indonesia and Malaysia. Palm oil and sunflower oil we import from Ukraine and Argentina. These are sources of our imports of edible oils. So why the price of edible oils is increasing? The reason is because the international prices are increasing. International prices of edible oils are increasing there, and as 56% of our demand is met through the imports, therefore um, the price of edible oils in India are also increasing. What are the reasons for international rise in the price of these edible oils in the international market? First of all, right now, edible oil are witnessing a shift from the food basket to the energy basket. So what it means? So oils, as we know, edible oils can be used for is an important source of food. At the same time, they can be used to make renewable sources of energy. Like we have biofuels, first generation, second generation, third generation biofuels. So first generation biofuels use oil as a source of this, and there is an increasing focus of oil as an important source of energy. So because of that, there is a demand, international demand for oils are increasing. Second is that we are right now witnessing some labor issues in Malaysia and Indonesia. Because of that, the supply side of palm oil is has reduced. Second is right now China is having huge demand. The buying from the Chinese side for the edible oils has increased. So limited supply and increased demand. So it creates a pressure on upward pressure on the prices, international prices of edible oils. So what are the options available? First is that we can reduce the import duty on this. So if their import duty is reduced, suddenly there will be a drastic reduction in edible oils. Second is that we should try to increase the domestic production of edible oils. So with this, let's move on to the next article. It is about what are the various proposals by Lakshadweep administration and why there is an issue created by these proposals. So Lakshadweep administrator has, as we know, Lakshadweep is a UT. It was created in 1956. Before that, it was a part of Madras provision of Madras Malabar part, and in fact, the nearest state to Lakshadweep is Kerala, and in fact, Malayalam is one of the language that is spoken widely here. Demographically, it constitutes highest population of scheduled tribes. At the same time, we have high population of minorities, Muslims. Especially Muslim population is 95, around 95%. This is the demography of this India. The geography of this region is that there are around, we have 36 islands across 12 atolls. Out of this, only 10 are inhabited. So now what are the recent controversy about? The administrator has come out with new proposals. First proposal is to ban cow slaughter and beef as a food. So locals feel that this goes against their eating practices. Second point is that there is a new two-child policy there. So especially with regard to the panchayat elections. So those people who have more than two children would be barred from panchayat elections. So that is the point, and it is creating a concern in the local area. Third is that the administrator is planning to allow serving of liquor in order to promote tourism. Right now, there is no liquor sale happening in the inhabited islands of the Lakshadweep. However, there is an island named Bangaram Island, which is not inhabited, that is uninhabited. From there, liquor supply is there. So now the administration is planning that these tourist destinations, these restaurants, these malls would be serving liquor in order to attract tourists. However, the locals feel that it will result in rapid proliferation of liquor in the region and would create issues in the domestic life of the population. Fourth is land acquisition powers, right? The administration has brought the draft Lakshadweep Development Authority regulation. So in order to ensure the proper development of towns in the island. So it talks of declaration something called planning areas and planning and developmental authorities for uh, for large projects. However, locals feel that it will result in land grab by these multinational companies. Fifth issue that has cropped up right now is about ending Gunda regulation. So new regulation is being made where there is a provision for detaining people who have a history of uh, indulging in unlawful activities. However, the fact is that the Lakshadweep has very low crime rate. So coming out with a new law in a place which has one of the lowest crime rates is seen as uh, is not seen in the right light by these locals. Sixth point is that so Lakshadweep uh, used to had very strict COVID related SOPs, which ensured that the region was in a green area. However, these SOPs were diluted, resulting in a rise spurt in cases of COVID in the region. So this has also created apprehensions among the local population. So this was today with regard to what are the steps that Lakshadweep administration has taken and why there is a opposition to these proposals of the administration. With this, we come to an end of today's lecture. So in the end, I would like to thank you all for watching the Indian Express Demystified series. I would like to ask you to like our videos, comment on it, subscribe to our channel, and you can also join our Telegram channel. At the same time, you would be finding the PDF of the notes of the Indian Express Demystified series in the link given below. So thank you so much. Have a nice day.